All right, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world watching the ACL Hub. My name is Mick, founder of the ACL Hub, and I've got a really interesting chat coming up over the next hour or so. I've got Mallory Hasselbeck, who's a Division One lacrosse player, who's currently in her first, well, she's in her, what did you say, fourth or fifth year, first year at Stanford, but you had a big chunk of time at Boston College.
Mhm.
She's here to talk shop about her ACL injury and unfortunately has had a couple to talk about, which we'll talk about over the next bit of time. But Mallory, thanks for coming along and sharing your experiences with ACL rehab and some of the things you've been through.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, well, I've actually never spoken to a lacrosse player before, so it's anything you tell me today will be something new. So I'm looking forward to learning a little bit more about the process. So in Australia, it's not a big sport. In Melbourne, I've got a couple of friends who are involved in lacrosse in Melbourne, and there is a community down there that play it. And but from what I've seen, it's fast paced. Lots of contact, lots of non-contact change of direction. Yeah, can you give us Australian listeners a little breakdown of what lacrosse is and how demanding it is?
Yeah, essentially, people like to describe it as the soccer with sticks. So it's
Yeah,
basically soccer with sticks. The catchphrase for this last World Cup was it's the fastest game on 2 feet. Tons of cutting, tons of a little bit of contact. Men's lacrosse is a little bit more physical. They wear helmets and pads. We just wear little goggles. But I mean, my arms are pretty bruised from the metal sticks.
yeah,
But it's a very competitive and fun sport, and it's growing in Australia, for sure.
yes, yeah, awesome. And I understand it's becoming, is it going to be an Olympic sport? Is that
Hmm.
it's
Correct.
sort of
Yeah. 2028.
2028? How are you shaping up for that?
Oh, hey, I'm
Cross
one day
or
at a time, one week at a time. That's what I've learned with the knees, but
yeah,
I have some friends that are definitely shooting for that too.
definitely. Well, you mentioned that, yeah, your knees and obviously the ACL injuries are a big part of what we're trying to learn about on the ACL Hub, and athlete experiences are something that our audience really enjoys, and it's one thing for physios to talk about it from the evidence that exists and our own clinical experiences, but what I've learned over time is what matters to the patient and what matters to the athlete right in front of you, and the experiences they've had along the way actually probably matter a whole lot more than what the textbooks are sort of telling us. So
Mhm.
yeah, I'm grateful for your insight. You've had a couple of injuries, ACL injuries over the time. We'll probably spend a big chunk of time talking about the more recent one and the rehab processes because they're probably front and center and fresh in the brain. But um, yeah, can you talk us back about your first injury, briefly, how that happened and in what context and how that first rehab went for you?
Yeah, my first ACL was in the fall of 2021. Um, and actually 2020. And I was a fresh senior in high school, was playing on the field hockey team at the time. We hadn't even had our first game, and I went out to go play for this like travel. You basically try out to be on this lacrosse team, like an all-American lacrosse team. So I made the team. I ended up getting the opportunity to go to like Virginia Beach to play, and we're warming up at the field. I'm doing my band exercises before the game, and I remember some girl jokingly on the team was like, "Why are you doing the band exercises?" And I was like, "Oh, you got to protect those knees," just joking because I knew older girls on my high school team had done it, so I was like, might as well do it, and more of a check the box thing than a really understanding what it was doing. And then really the first play of the game, maybe first or two plays of the game, just get the draw, which is like the face off, running down the field, go to make a dodge on my girl, 1-2, my cleat gets stuck in the turf and my knee
Yeah,
fully pops. I immediately go down and I remember just being like, something's not right. And I like kill signal to the sideline, like something's not right. And it kind of felt like I rolled my ankle, but it was my knee. And that was how I
yeah,
kept describing it. And went over to the sideline. The trainer that they had at this tournament checked me out. He's like, "You're fine, go back in." And I'm like, okay. So I stand up and immediately my knee shifts because I have no MCL at this point. And I'm
yeah,
like,
okay, yeah,
something's not right. So then um turns out toward the ACL, MCL, meniscus. and got the full surgery. Didn't have to keep my leg straight, which was nice. It was just a small meniscus repair. But really did that my senior year of high school. I played three sports, didn't get to play a single one of those sports, and
Yeah.
went into college healthy, but right at the 9 month cusp, right at the 10 month cusp. So I still was trying to be like myself and feel like myself. And I think something I really take away from the first ACL was, in high school and maybe just like being a female athlete and playing so many sports that I just would go from field hockey season to ice hockey season to lacrosse season and then recycle, repeat. And I think I never did a lot of like strength training. I would do like little CrossFit workouts in my garage and things like that, but I never really had a program that I followed throughout high school
Yeah.
because it wasn't what we did. And so the
Yeah.
first time I really started lifting weights consistently was my ACL rehab. So
Yeah. Yeah. You
they were
did. You
like,
did.
"How much do you trap bar?" I was like, "What's a trap bar?" You know? You know?
Well, you did well, like, because that was in your last year of high school, right? So that puts
Mhm.
you in at what, 17, 18?
Yeah, 18, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, your knees survived a big chunk of time. Like, I think what we know, peak ACL injury time for females is probably about between 14 and 18. So you kind of hit that back end of that range. But we're seeing,
Mhm.
unfortunately, a big high, a high number, and it's a growing number here in Australia. Like our biggest growth age for ACL injuries is females aged between 10 to 14. And we're going to see this exponential shift in the amount of ACL injuries in the next 10 years from some of our prediction models, which is very scary. And we're probably going to see similar things in the US.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, well, that's interesting insight because you didn't specialize in a sport, which some people are probably blaming at the moment. And maybe that's why we're contributing, or maybe that's contributing to this high number. But if you went from lacrosse to ice hockey to, what was it, soccer, you did as
Field
well?
hockey.
Field hockey. So you got, yeah, lots of exposures and different changes of direction of sport. So yeah, that sucks. And so what did that mean for you then? If that happened in your final year of high school, did that kind of rub out your first year of college? Does that kind of, or did you rehab in time for that first year so you can start playing?
Yeah, I rehabbed in time, so I showed up in the fall, like first day of practice, was able to do everything. Um, I think passed all the tests, passed all the doctor's exams, but I do think there was an aspect of you're not fully yourself. Um, and some people come back in this last ACL rehab, I was ready to go at 8 months, and I felt so confident in that.
Yeah,
But I think the first one, I definitely was not the same player, maybe on the field mentally or I think physically I was, but I think just took a couple more months to kind of get my feet under me and
yeah,
coming back from an ACL and then being pushed onto the Boston College team had just won the national championship.
yeah, okay.
So
Yeah,
my first ever game back cleared from an ACL was versus Team Canada, and then an hour later I played versus Team USA in a jamboree. So it was definitely
right.
a welcome back, welcome to sports, welcome to
Yeah,
college game, but yeah.
you survived. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Is there a family history for you? Mum or dad, brother or
No.
sisters, their ACLs?
No, nothing.
Yeah. And would you, the non-contact injuries from what you described too, they're often the kind of sort of pegged as an innocuous injury or a freak accident. Like if you go back to that first incident, like did you feel like there was something biomechanically wrong, so to speak, or is it a move that you've pulled off thousands and thousands of times, like the speed, the intensity, and all those little things that make you electric on the field? Was anything different on that day? Do you recall, or was it just kind of one of those freak
No,
accidents?
it was my go-to move. Like my go-to move. Um, really had never even really understood what an ACL was, and I just was like, whoa, didn't even know, um, what it was. So yeah, nothing like in the freak accident, like that's the non-contact, but like the one that I tore with my um most recently, I got tackled at lacrosse, which
Yeah,
never really happens, kind of.
yeah,
So that would be considered a freak accident as well. And I
yes.
think a thing to remember is just like it's why you play sports. Like it comes and goes, and it's the risk that you take playing them, but it's also you have so much joy playing them. So you just
Yeah.
have to balance it out.
Yeah, that's right. It is that balance because yeah, there's pros to cons to everything we do. There's risks versus rewards with everything we do. If something gives you joy, something that gives you love and energy and excitement, but it comes with a small degree of risk, and really like the risk of turning on, rolling up to play a game of competitive sports. The risk sort of always sits at 5 to 10% baseline that you could get injured on any given day. Most people sort of take that risk because the 90%, and positively, we need to be thinking about the 90 to 95% risk that you don't get injured, and the 90 to 95% chance you just have a great game and you love it. So that's we often get caught up with this, 5 to 10% risk factor. And it's like, well, there's also a 90% chance you'll be absolutely fine and you'll have a great game and you'll enjoy yourself. So you mentioned the second injury, that was a contact injury. Was that to the same side or was that to your other leg?
Different
To the
side,
side.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and so that was when was that incident?
That was my at the end of my junior year of college.
Okay.
This last at BC this last 2 years ago in May.
Yeah.
I had already redshirted that season because I missed the first 9 games through a couple meniscus surgeries. And I was like, you
Yeah.
know what? I just want to practice and help my team in that way and pretend to be the best player on the other team and wear a jersey and learn all their tendencies and help us that way. So then in the fall, I can have a full fall healthy and a full spring healthy in order
Yeah.
to set me up for success. And I just was dodging, and a girl kind of came out of nowhere a little aggressively and hit me. And I just kind of fell, and I think it broke part of the front of my kneecap as well. So it was very painful.
Yeah.
Um, and I just remember being that in that moment, I was like, I tore my ACL. Like I
Yeah.
fully knew something wasn't right, and I was in a lot more pain. I just remember being like, oh my gosh, I forgot how much this hurts.
Yeah.
And maybe because it'd been 4 years that I hadn't remembered, but it hurt a lot. And I think they say that because it was the MCL and the bone and the
Yeah.
hit.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So the second one also to MCL injured again on the other side,
Not
and
not too much, but MC, yeah, like grade one.
yeah, okay, and a fracture to the patella or
Correct.
part of the thigh
Correct.
bone.
And
Yeah.
meniscus.
Yeah, you've done a great job on both knees each
I know.
time. Yeah, and what was the difference between so the first one it sounded like you were back cleared to return to sport about 8 months, or you felt mentally ready at 8 months. You played your first competitive one about 10. This one, was there more time between injury and surgery because of the severity and the contact, or was the surgery done still pretty quickly? Yeah, can you sort of take us through the differences between ACL
Yeah.
one and two?
Number one, the surgery was done. I had a lot of swelling. So we did a lot of prehab. I think it was about 3 to 4 weeks till I got the surgery. And it's kind of like the saying, like you do so much prehab that you think you don't need the surgery, and that's when you need the surgery. And
Yep.
so I finally was walking and finally healthy, and then it was like, all right, it's time for the first one. And then the second one, it was my team actually was playing. It was the weekend before the Final Four in the national championship. So like tore it, and then about 4 days later we were playing in the Final Four, and then we end up going on to win the national championship. So I was on the
Yep.
sidelines of the national championship on crutches with my knee brace. The one rule
Yep.
was like we're gonna storm the field when we win, and it was like kind of a
Yep.
last second win. And they were like, you can't run. I'm like, I don't think I can run. I'm on crutches. But so that was, I think we waited about 2 weeks, but we kind of had to get the ball rolling because my season was going to start. I was going to miss the entire fall, and my season was going to start February 12th.
Yeah.
So I, I, I tried to get back as fast as possible.
Yeah, and so that's probably the stark differences that we're seeing probably between the different healthcare systems. Like in Australia, we just don't have that same progression from high school through to college and then college into professional. It kind of, if we look at rugby league, AFL, our kind of big major sporting codes, soccer to a lesser degree, but each one of those three sports often have like academy programs, and so and there's absolutely known high schools where if you were good at Aussie rules football, you would go to that particular high school because it was linked to probably getting a higher draft pick and all those kind of things. But it's almost like the college system's missed in Australia. It's like if you're great at high school, you kind of almost like jump into professional land. So
Mhm.
I think it's really fascinating difference there because often, professional athletes in America, yes, some high schoolers will jump straight to the NBA, well, they used to anyway. They may have to do 1 year of college now, but at least some people will do at least 1 year of college before making themselves eligible. It might be
Mhm.
different in lacrosse as well and US soccer and all those kind of things, but in Australia, like we're kind of encouraged to sit around for a little bit longer after ACL injury, and we often are kind of telling our patients, look, at least 4 weeks, at least 6 weeks of rehab before you do it. There's really sort of no rush necessarily, but in college, each week can potentially matter, especially if you injure yourself in high school, and if that means that you're missing the first few games of the college season, then it means you're redshirted. Is that right? Like, how does that?
Yeah.
If yeah,
So I missed the first 9 games of the season. You play about 15 games regular season, or maybe 14 games regular season, and then however many you play in the playoffs.
yeah,
Um, so it wasn't meant to be, and you only get 4 years on the field, or with a chance to be on the field. So I just kind of wanted to maximize those, and thankfully I had the opportunity to do that. But yeah, I mean it's quick. It goes quick, and sometimes you have 2 games a week. So you miss 1 week, it's like, oh, it's 1 week. That's 2 games. And then you have another game on Tuesday and Saturday. That's another 2 games. So quickly they add up, and in
yeah.
a competitive thing, sports, it's like every game matters and you want to
Yeah.
be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think this is just a perfect example of each physiotherapist listening to this will just needs to really respect that different countries, different healthcare systems, different high school, college, and professional systems are just very different. And there's no right or wrong way to handle this situation. What is the right way is acknowledging and addressing the person that's sitting right in front of you and their goals and their sport demands and what their goals and aspirations are. So I think there's some really good sort of teaching points there. Um, have you had any, probably focusing now on that sort of second injury up until now, has there been any really big standout moments where you kind of at the lowest lowest point, like you're missing out on like a big game or pain or swelling or like it's there's often some still some low moments through rehab where any particular, was it the hardest part early or was it the hardest part late? What were probably some of the toughest moments for you in that second rehab?
Um, I would say the second rehab happened at a really unfortunate time. I was finally back from my meniscus surgery, that I had to get basically twice, and finally back feeling like the best player of myself. I had so much positive reinforcement from the people around me and the coaches, and just playing at practice, playing free and having so much fun. So then to have that kind of like knock me down again and be like, oh man, like I gotta do this whole thing again.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I can do it. And then I kind of mapped it out on a calendar. And when you look at 9 months on a calendar, it can be a little overwhelming. And then you look at 9 months on a calendar, and then you have your first game of the season that falls inside those 9 months. It's like, and you're a senior, so hypothetically, it's like your last year. And so I think it was a lot for me to look at that and be like, oh, I'm gonna miss. I just redshirted, gave up a whole year so then I could have a year. And now I'm
Yeah.
gonna miss the entire fall and the first 5 games of the season, and to come back 5 games, I was fighting. I was fighting big time. And I think that was definitely a moment that I took me from like took a step back, and I was like, oh gosh, this is gonna be hard. I knew I could do it. Like if I'm a firm believer in like if you can do it once, you can do it twice. Like if you run the first 2 reps, you can run the last 2 reps. And I think I knew I could do it. I think it just was like, oh man, I gotta do this again.
Yeah, it's tough. How did you then, knowing like that calendar example, like, knowing that you got 9 months minimum, did you break it down into small moments to make it, I guess, mentally easier for you? Or, like what were your strategies there to make it, less hard, so to speak, mentally?
Yeah. The first time around I did a great job, and my PT did a great job. And I think just my doctor did a great job of just being like, all right, these are your checkpoints. Like if say you want to get it in 9 months, like this is where we want to be. Like at the end of every session, like I would leave, and even if I was come back the next day, I'd be like, okay, what do I need to do before tomorrow? or like,
Yeah.
all right, what do I need to have done by Friday? And it's like, okay, first week, it was like, we need 110 degrees like flexion. And I'm like, okay, I can do that. So then it just kind of like, what can I keep, keep going and keep building on? Like, what's my next goal? What's my next goal? To make sure,
Yeah.
one, I wasn't falling behind, but also I wasn't going too hard because I think some people push, 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 and then you end up getting set back. So
Yeah.
finding a good balance of that. And then I think with the second one, I just kind of was like on a mission, just like I have to be back. There's no other option. And like tell me I'll do anything.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And being like a D1 college player too, like it's going to be very different to say like, you know, 30-year-old mum or dad who injures their ACL playing social sport, or someone in their mid-20s who isn't, playing college football, soccer, or lacrosse, or whatever it is. Like, can you describe what kind of your rehab team kind of looked like in those first 3 to 6 months? Was it purely physio, or did you have strength and conditioning staff and coaches in there? And yeah, can you sort of walk us through who your team is in to sort of get
Mhm.
you through this kind of level
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, I mean, I was really fortunate to have, I think it takes a village to get you through an ACL, and you can't do it alone. And I think the people that I had around me like set me up for success and also gave me so much confidence that like I could do it. Because one, you're like, okay, I can do it myself. But the days that you're like, I can't do it, it's like I know the people around me are good at their job and are speaking truth to me and telling me I can do it. And so, I had my PT at Champion Lenny. He was great. Like I saw him 3 times a week. I would drive there. Um, I'll walk you through a day. I'll walk you through a day, which would make
Yeah, yeah,
sense. So I'd wake up 6 o'clock, 6 a.m., do my stretches, kind of help myself get mobile, go to conditioning with the whole lacrosse team. So with my strength coach at college, and I would do like a bike workout for an hour while they would all run and do speed work.
yeah,
So I'd do the bike workout, and then we'd go to lacrosse practice. And during lacrosse practice, I wanted to be present. I was a team captain. I kind of had to be present, but also for parts of it on the side with our team trainer, I could do band work and squats and just small motions on the side just to help me work on like the small mechanics and whatever I could do at that time. Then practice would end about noon. I would get in my car and I would drive 30 minutes to go to Champion and do a
yeah,
full lift with them and full PT, full body work care. Um, and then I'd get back to school around 3 and go to class from 3:30 to 7. And then
yeah.
recycle and do the whole thing the next day.
And try and eat and sleep and recover and all that kind of stuff in
And
between,
homework.
and study and homework. So
Yeah.
that was an example of like your final year at Boston.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, yeah. And so in that senior year, were you able to play all of the year, or did you miss a bit?
I missed the first 5 games. So I
Yeah,
got back around March 22nd, I think was the first game I was back. Or maybe
yeah.
February 22nd. So I missed the first 5 games, February.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah.
that was, what's that, roughly 8, 9 months again.
Yeah, it was around 8 months.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
yeah.
awesome. That's good. And Lenny, for those that have listened, you probably you probably have caught Lenny McCrana from Champion Sports Physical Therapy. We had an interview. If you haven't caught that one, too, feel free to go back and watch that one. It was a good 45-minute hour chat on his management style. But yeah, Lenny's got great testing processes and great criteria, sort of. Yeah, I guess plans to make sure you're progressing. Did you sort of hit any speed bumps along the way? Were there moments where you thought you were flying and then all of a sudden Lenny tested you and go, hang on, you're actually not doing as well as you think you're doing? Or was that second rehab run pretty smooth sailing along the way?
I was fortunate the second one was not smooth, but there really weren't no too many hiccups. Really, I just had to get past the first 2 weeks. I really struggled with a lot of pain the first couple weeks, but
Yeah,
there really weren't any hiccups in that sense.
cool, good. And return to running and jumping was pretty smooth. Did he make you jump through a few hoops to get back running straight lines, jumping, doing plyometrics? Did he have he would have done some quad testing, some jump testing, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, Lenny, I mean, they have all the all the fancy equipment and just all the testing. And I think I did the strength testing around 5 months, and my numbers passed the hypothetical
Yeah,
testing pass. So that was huge for just for
yeah.
confidence in coming back, and also just, okay, we have that check box. So now we can focus on the other things that are important in rehab.
Yeah, that's awesome. So that's all. It's rare to see someone pass return to sport testing before 6 months, but you'll see some amazing athletes just get it. And for me, it's I always get asked, well, if I pass my return to sport testing, why can't I play tomorrow? It's like, well, we kind of now need to prepare you for sport. Like we've just got you to a point where you've just passed the test. That doesn't necessarily mean you're fit to play your sport, or conditioned to play a sport. So now we're going to take the next probably 3 months, um, a little bit longer if we can sneak in an extra bit of time, and now we're going to condition you for the demands of the sport. So, yeah, to get those criteria done early just is a luxury to have because you get to have more time on the field.
Mm.
What were moving over to Stanford? Was there um, like, did you have to continue any rehab, or are you still considering yourself like an ACL injured athlete, or have you moved beyond that now? Like, do you still focus when you go to the gym or when you do your warm ups and that kind of stuff? Because you're now about what, a year post op and a year
Hmm.
post
Yeah,
return. Yeah, how do you
not
sort of
even. Yeah.
yeah, how do you mentally kind of consider yourself now? Do you still, sort of see you as that person, or do you think, nah, those two injuries are behind me now? Or is there something there in the back of the mind still?
Yeah, it's been, I think maybe just being in a change of new place and something like that. But it really, I don't think about it at all. I was joking the other day that my body hasn't felt this good in so long, and it might be a combination of the warmth, and the sun, and we play on grass here, which I definitely think just helps the toll that it takes on your body running on field turf every single day, where running on soft grass, can definitely help. But yeah, I definitely have a little attention to it if my knee like is a little sore, but nothing, no extra rehab or special lifts or anything like that, which has been a really big blessing.
Yeah, mentally, I think that's a big one. Once you can sort of stop, and that's how I explain to my patients. In your first year, consider yourself to be an ACL injured athlete. Rehab, like as if every day sort of focus on your knee, or every week focus on your knee. But after that first year, you kind of you, you're doing exercise for your sport, or you're doing your training for your sport, and you as an athlete and you as a bigger person other than your knee. And I think that mental shift is a really big relief for people because they just get so overwhelming just looking at their knee each and every day, feeling their knee each and every day, focusing on their knee for basically every day for 12 months. It's just, it gets you down after a while. In those rough moments and those sort of big low points throughout your rehab, what were some of the small wins that you had, or any silver linings, like not being able to run and train? Like, did you pick up a newfound hobby that you enjoyed doing, or were you able to sort of do other things to make you a better person? Or what are some of the things that I guess you could call a silver lining through those pretty dark moments in the second rehab?
Yeah, I think I was really lucky to have coaches that kind of didn't let me just check out and didn't let me just be the kid on the sidelines and just let those 9 months pass you. And I had, like, my sister really poured into me and just was like, you can't let those 9 months just go to waste. So how are you going to contribute and still learn? So then when you are healthy, it's not like, oh, I missed 9 months. It's like, yeah, you might have missed 9 months playing on the field, but you use those 9 months to learn how to read a defense, or learn how to read a sliding package, or learn how the other team does this and this and this, or how your team does that. And I think my coaches gave me the reins to kind of learn and almost be like a player coach and run like our scout team, which is kind of just like pretending to be the other team. So I'd be the coach of the other team that we were playing that week. Um, yeah, so it was a lot of fun for me and gave me a lot of ownership, and definitely kept me engaged. So I didn't feel like I was checked out that whole season. And then you can find confidence and feel like you're a part of something, even if you aren't the one on the field on Saturday.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point because I think a lot of people do, and a lot of athletes do talk about the isolation that they go through when they go from being in the main training group and going to games and being involved in the warm up and playing a game and then the post
Yeah.
game celebrations, that kind of stuff. And a lot of people miss that as they go through rehab because you don't you it's that simple disconnect. It's a very small disconnect, but it ends up being a big one. Like when you when you don't get to train and you have to be in the rehab room, this big barrier that all of a sudden now comes up, it can be really, really isolating. You miss the banter, you miss the jokes, you miss the chat. So any opportunities that you can be involved in the team still, and that coaching opportunity or that scouting opportunity, that's a wonderful yeah, that's a big win that at least keeps you engaged and mentally kicking along. Do you see yourself potentially as a coach one day now that you've sort of been on both sides of the, I guess, of the field and the
Yeah,
fence?
I definitely think it's something I would like to at least try my hand at.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Did was there any moments in the second rehab where I guess psychologically like the confidence wasn't there on field, like, or did the rehab with Lenny and his team mentally prepare you again? Like a lot of people do talk about they don't trust their knee and it takes a lot of time to regain that trust. Like, did you have any major concerns about the stability of the knee and the confidence in you twisting and turning?
I not the second time, no. I think Lenny's team did a great job of like reinforcing like the surgery went great. Like the screw is in there, it's not the tear, like it's not, it's sewn. It's like secured, and I think just reinforcing like, okay, the surgery did work. Like they did do what they said they did. And now like our rehab is working and here's X, Y, and Z why it's working. And this is how you're gonna be
Yeah,
able to perform at your highest level in 3 months. And I think that was great for me. And I think also just having the mindset of like almost kind of just like send it. Like this is it. Like we're fighting to come back in this time frame to get you back for your season. And like there's no looking back. So like it's just trusting that the doctors did what they said they did and it worked and I'll do my part and you do your part kind of thing.
yeah, nice. Did you have the surgeries that you had, were they both patella tendons
Mhm.
or
Yeah. Patel tendon.
yeah, and any extra procedure, the LET procedure, did you have an extra
Mm.
thing put on the side of the knee to reinforce it?
No, I did not.
Good. Yeah, so that's often young active females now, especially here in Australia, where we're getting a fair. It's almost like every person that comes through kind of gets this extra reinforcement on the side of the knee to control that rotational support. I mean, to be fair, here in Australia, most of the surgeons will do a hamstring graft rather than a patella tendon for the first time tearers. And the extra procedure is called an LET, and it does reduce your risk in the hamstrings more than the patella tendon. So that's definitely been shown to be a nice insurance policy. But it does add to a fair bit of pain in those first 2 or 3 weeks, which can sort of slow you down. How did you get on top of your pain? What were your big strategies there that anyone listening that's been through ACL rehab, what was your kind of, was it just, suck it up and take Panadol, Nurofen, or, ice the hell out of it? What were those kind of pain relieving strategies for you?
I think it's a combo of both. I think it's just accepting, like the second time around, I kind of knew what I was in for. So it's like, all right, I have to get through the first 3 days and then have to get through the first 2 weeks.
Yeah,
And once I can do that, like you're over the hump. And I think also, I think one of the best things that happened for me was a bunch of my friends came over like day 5. And I was really struggling like to walk around the house, like with crutches, like would only stand up for like seconds at minutes at a time, and then I'd go back to lay down. And I think my friends came over and I kind of had a moment of like, all right, like I need to not impress them, but I can't be a baby anymore.
yeah,
And so I stood up and hung out with them for an hour and walked around the house a couple times with my friends and they kind of made me do it and my parents kind of like were like make her walk around the house, make her do a couple laps, make her go outside and I think that was a big turning point for me like it hurt so much afterwards, but I think it was great for me to be like, all right, I can stand for an hour, or all right, I can go to field hockey practice for an hour.
yeah,
And then my mom picks me up and I ice right immediately after. But I
yeah.
think the biggest thing is like you just got to get through the first 3 days and the first 2 weeks, and then
Yes.
and then you're over the hump.
Yeah, agree. I think that's my approach to ACL rehab is kind of leave the knee alone. From a physio point of view, do the basic stuff, get them to recruit their quads, give them some really simple quad recruitment things, give them some range of movement exercises, but really double down on any kind of pain relieving strategies. And I try not to get too involved in the first 2 weeks, other than lots of education and reassurance and bit of gentle supervision just to sort of get through. But in terms of really heavy-handed manual therapy or getting my hands in there and being heavily involved, touching, poking, and prodding, I don't want to add more fuel to the fire. And I think there's a lot there to learn for all junior physios. There is, those first 2 weeks are painful and sore, and anything you do just really needs to be kind of really just more so aimed at pain relief and yeah, don't be overly aggressive in those first 2 weeks where things can fire back up at you and really protract the recovery.
Mm.
um, that's good. I like that. Yeah, you mentioned the your friends came around and helped you. Were they like a big part of you in the first sort of 6 months where you do get that disconnect? Like, did you how did you, apart from like, going to training and being sort of part of the coaching staff, like how did you how did you go about remaining connected to your friendship groups and that kind of stuff, or your teammates? Like, did you proactively do that, or being in a group of athletes that they've all had major injuries from time to time, do athletes just get it that when one of their teammates go down, they all get around each other, or like is it, yeah, because it'd be very, very different in the everyday world where or different situations. Like, what was that first 6 months like when you kind of lose those connections?
Yeah, I think athletes do get it, and I think there's a tie almost. I mean, anyone that's ever torn their ACL has a soft spot for someone else that's torn their ACL. And I was fortunate that my best friend and my roommate, for the last 3 years, she had torn two ACLs. So it
Yeah,
was like having my own personal nurse, and I probably overused her more than I should have, being like, "Can you fill up my ice? Can you lift my leg?" But I was really fortunate to have somebody that knew exactly my pain and kind of knew like, oh, when it rains, sometimes my knee hurts, or oh, my knee swelled up just because I stood on it for 2 hours today. And I
yeah,
think that was a big part for me. And even my coaches, they had three out of the four of my coaches that had torn their ACLs.
yeah.
So um, definitely, it's like if you know, you know, kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's sad to hear so many people injuring their ACLs, but it's also nice to know that you're not the only one, and everyone's probably been there, and you can get that reassurance and that, I guess that positive reinforcement that, look what you're going through, it's normal. Obviously, your physios and your doctors will also do that, and they'll be important people to speak to if you're super worried about things. But it's also nice to have a community around you that of people who've been through the same thing. What was it like as a student athlete in those first 6 months where you're, like you're rehabbing and sport isn't taking up so much of your time, like because of the pain, the mobility issues in those first few months, like, did your grades sort of up and go, or like, academically, like how were you able to sort of study more, for example, and like did your grades go through the roof because you didn't have so much time to dedicate to practice, or or what was that like academia wise?
Yeah, I think my grades actually did go up in the fall, when I was going through it and really didn't want to be on my feet so much. So I would put put my ice on my leg, and was able to do the readings and kind of dive into it more and ask more questions. And but yeah, I think it definitely, you like when you one part of your life isn't going the way that you really want it to be going, it's easy to be like, all right, what other part of my life can I invest time in? And I do think, like, I mean, I would show up, I like to dress up for class usually, at least look presentable, and I'd be coming in hot from PT, so they would see me in my sweaty ponytail and my workout clothes. So I think that was just a shift for me, that it was like I don't have those extra 30 minutes because I'm doing 3 hours of my day is rehab, plus the driving. So I think that was definitely it definitely impacted a lot of my time.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, we've got a couple more to go, and then I can let you go off and study. And then
Yeah.
the last two ones, I think, are more about the first one's being, you've been around a lot of physios now and a lot of athletic trainers and a lot of people. Like, what are some of the qualities in us as health professionals that kind of make a difference between being like, a really good one and, maybe not a not so good one. So I guess what I'm asking is, what are some of the really good qualities you found in physios and ATs? Is it our language? Is it our communication? What are the things that really have made rehab for you a bit easier over the years?
Yeah, I think it can be really scary when you get injured for anyone, however old you are, because like you guys see it every single day, but to me, it was the first time I'd ever even heard of what an ACL was. And so I think initially it's like, oh no, what just happened to me? Who is going to help me get better from this? And doctors, like you're like, all right, you're the doctor, like you show up in the white coat, like I probably trust you just naturally. And so the same thing when you show up to PT, it's like, all right, this is the person I'm basically trusting to get me back to the sport I love. So I think just a balance of being like almost being so compelling that like, all right, I'm gonna trust you with my rehab, with my heart and soul. So those PTs that stick out to me were the ones that I like had so much faith in because they were so authentic and they were well respected, but also just they gave up this confidence of like, I believe in you and I believe in myself and we can do this.
Yeah.
So not fiddling and not, I don't know, it's kind of fuzzy. It's like, no, if that's what you want to do, if you want to get back for your season, like I believe that we can make it happen. Like we have to be realistic about it, but like I fully believe that we can make it happen. And I
Yeah.
think that kind of gets you through the tough days and it makes the high days high, because you're in it together and they truly buy in and care and they're not just there for the 1 hour that you're doing your session. I would shoot Lenny a text being like, just walked back to my dorm and wasn't in pain, like let's go, So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely one of the biggest things that I've taken away.
Yeah. Yeah. Good qualities there. It's definitely an important part of that, definitely building rapport, but yeah, that confidence in what you do as a clinician, I think that's really important. If you don't feel confident in what you're doing, then your patients are going to read that straight away. They're not dumb, and particularly high school, college athletes, they're very, very smart and they can sort of see through the bullshit. So yeah, it's one of those things. I think an important lesson for us, like, as clinicians, like if you don't have the confidence yet to manage someone, or if you don't truly believe this person, can get back in this time, one, we've got to be honest, but two, if you don't really genuinely believe in your own skill set, it's not it's not a disservice or a discord. It's not a discredit to you. It's just that it's something that you just need to learn to do better over time. So I think we kind of need to drop our ego a lot. If we don't feel like we're ready to take on a particular challenge or a patient, we need to sort of look to refer to someone. Maybe senior, bit senior, but also too, if that's the case, we need to sort of come along and gain that experience as well, so you can handle that situation better in the future too. So, um, yeah, and then lastly, Mallory, it's for someone that's injured their ACL, which there'll be some people here that listen to athlete stories that have kind of in your position that you've been there, they're currently there sitting in that situation with a torn ACL and not really knowing how the next 9 to 12 months will play out. Any words of advice or hot tips that you can share with them to help them through their next part of their rehab journey?
Yeah, I would say one, like if you like are going through it, like you can acknowledge at first like this is hard. Like I think a lot of people when they go through the ACL, like they're so afraid to say, "Oh, like this stinks," like because then it sounds negative. But like that's the real reality of it is like you're allowed to say this stinks, but like this stinks, but I'm gonna get through it and here's why. Because I'm a hard worker, because I trust my team, because I'm devoted to it and I have a goal. Instead of like the woe is me attitude, it's like be honest, be realistic. Like you can be like, yeah, I don't get to play the sport I love. Like, and that's the competitors in us. Like if you are a competitive athlete, you're like, I would do anything to be on the field, and right now I can't. So the first step I think is acknowledging that you just had this injury and like grieving it almost as if it's like a loss. So then you can get over that hurdle. So then you're not grieving it for 9 months and playing woe is me. You're just saying, yeah, it
Yep.
stinks, but like here's how I'm gonna get through it and be better because of it. And then in turn, I think one of the coolest things for me has been able to see how through my injuries I can encourage others. I think one of the best stories that I have is that I just tore my ACL my senior year of high school, my first one. Rehabbed it. It was probably in the spring. I was feeling great working out at the gym. And the doctor comes in because our the place I was working out was connected to the doctor's office. And he's like, "Hey, do you mind just coming to talk to this girl?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever." And we're walking there and he's like, "Oh, like she's a lacrosse player, just tore ACL. She's so upset. We just told her." And so I'm like, "All right, like what am I gonna say to her?" So I just go in there, talk to this girl. I'm like, "You got this. Don't worry. It just did it. It's hard, but you got this." We take a photo. About 3 years go by, and this girl is the freshman on my team when I was a senior captain. So it's so cool to see, like, we're both finally back healthy playing. We get to play together, pass it to her when she scores her first goal, I think it was. And it just was so cool, such a cool moment of like, yeah, us in that doctor's office never would have thought this was possible. Even me, who was giving her encouragement, I was like, I don't know where the next 4 years are going to go, but
Yeah.
I think you never know if you can first accept it yourself and then face it head on. You never know who you might encourage to do the same and help them through their injury. Because I know there are people that helped me through that, but it's just a cool little story
Amazing.
and yeah, just a moment I
Amazing.
have.
That is really, really cool. That is such a great story. I love that. That's a perfect way to finish our chat, Mallory. I love that, and I can't wait to share this one with everyone. And that connection, like something so small, would have had like a really profound effect to that young girl who obviously went on to great things as well. So, well done. That's really cool.
Yeah, well, thank you. Well, thanks for having me on. This has been great.
Very good. All right, ACL Hubbers, that'll do for today. As always, we've got plenty more in store, so stay tuned for the next episode. But until now, that's it. And thanks, Mallory, and we'll catch everyone next time.